Content warning, this video will be discussing topics of suicide and self-harm. Trust me when I say I will have rhetorical points for these observations, but please watch at your own risk. Thank you so much. I woke up a little late today. I was going to make a video about Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and how I don't want to watch it. But instead, because I don't really have that much time to film this video, I've decided to record myself reading an essay that I left on a Slime E101 video about archiving his auto-deleted videos. I think there's something fishy in the way that digital artists use auto-deletion in order to try and simulate death. And all this bullshit started with Unus, Annus, so this essay is deconstructing that fundamentally. Slimy101 uploaded a video kindly asking his audience to please not archive any of the videos he had designated for auto-deletion in a day, a week, a month, a year, 10 years. And I'm a person who operates out of good faith, so I am happy to comply, maliciously of course. I'm not going to archive any of the videos he's designated for auto-deletion, but I will contest the concept to my dying breath. I don't think this is a worthwhile or valuable experience. I contested Unus Annus for a similar reason, in that they depict what can only be described as live broadcasted digital suicide. How many people do we think took their lives at the end of that live stream? I know that statement is pure inflammatory speculation, but I want you to question the design of media built to be erased. The people behind Unus Annus definitely wouldn't be at fault, but bad media design can harm vulnerable people, and artists should be responsible when artificing simulated scarcity. Your erasure of videos is more akin to a missing persons case. In an augmented reality sort of way, it's bad game design, because the experiences aren't any more or less valuable than any other type of exclusivity drivel plaguing the internet. Do you really want the defining feature of your art to be taking advantage of the same urgency parts of the brain as an everything must go, limited time only type super sale? So to clarify my point here, limited time is a man-made construct, because the measuring of time is also a man-made construct. To be clear, the only verifiably physical unit of time that we have is the second, and anything not defined primarily by the decay of a cesium atom is man-made bullshit. And so limited time, in that same sense, is also, in a way, man-made bullshit too. Yes, our days are numbered, but they are numbered by humans who invented those numbers in order to number things. It's a bit dubious to claim that just because our days are numbered, that we should be aware of the same soul-crushing time constraints that we ourselves invented. Does that make sense? Like, we are the ones that invented the numbers and the measuring systems. If we were to have a true top-down view of what death is, it's all spilling and flowing and coming and going, but there isn't really a good way to preserve that in technology. So our best bet is to just try and simulate it through auto-deletion? That's not giving. You've shown great case studies in terms of grappling attention, but if this is all you can do with it, then there's nothing here for me to enjoy. Why should I stay in the presence of someone who's constantly leaving? It's my personal opinion, I know, and not to toot my own horn, but I really like the stating of my thesis in this way, because that is exactly what's happening. It's just a person constantly leaving. I use this to set up a framework for differentiating that feeling of constantly leaving to something else, like a video game that has a hard technical skill level. Getting over it with Bennett Foddy seems to present a harsh, unforgiving climate, but soon you get a grapple of the tech and mechanics afforded to you, and you get looped into knowing about the jump scare, and the task at hand becomes a difficult but ultimately surmountable mountain with a reward at the end. It's a love letter to asset flips, and the game feels like chess, in that simple rules can be applied to create complex patterns and knowable, solvable positions. This style of video, however, doesn't gift the viewer with a win state or lose state like other games. Every deletion is at most a draw. I don't want to assert that this draw state is an illegitimate form of art, it's just that your version of art feels, to me, as too centralized, which leads to a defunct power dynamic, where the art exclusively comes from the artist, to give and take as they please. It reminds me of the evil stepmother in Fleabag. It becomes not about integrity, but about power and capability. Okay, now there is a rebuttal to be had about something like live music or other forms of art that are designed to be time limited. But I'm not against limited time art. In fact, I think that limited time art can gain more value through the process of archivery. I mean, a live streamer that doesn't have live stream archives has nothing to share with people on social media. And a music artist that only performs live and doesn't have a studio-made discography has nothing to share with their new audience. The whole idea in the death of the author concept, as I understand and use it, is to challenge a consumer's depiction of an artist, and an artist's depiction of themselves as the sole proprietor of ideas or the mediums they transfer into. Hot take, I know, but I believe that art intentionally designed to depend on the artist to send a message is weaker art, because the idea intended in the medium is fused to the artist. Performance art of any variety gains verity as it's recorded or preserved. It's very tree falling in a forest-esque, but sensory experiences depend on objects to be sensed. In essence, I don't believe the tree would make a sound. That's highly subjective, I'm aware. I'm not really resting my thesis here. Art isn't in the artists. It's in the ideas they communicate through the mediums they use. Songs don't start just to end, and so too do videos not get sent to the internet with express intent from the artist that they're to be deleted. Unus Annus would say that all we would have are the memories and the merch. But what I find interesting is that Unus Annus used an archiving type of platform in order to not preserve what was already hyper-curated memories themselves. It's also weird that they choose not to punish compilation artists, but they do punish archive artists when there's no real fundamental distinction between either. At most, there's a very subjective argument to be claimed about operating in good faith, but if we were to do that, then I can assert my own subjective claim that a tree falling in the forest doesn't make a sound because nobody's around to hear it. And I believe that this is where my own personal spiritual beliefs shine their brightest. It'd be great if there was some spiritual significance attached to these art pieces. How fun would it be to feel like a Buddhist sculpting sand just to blow it away? But that's not what this is. There is no comfort of meditation, only the dread of finality. Buddhists, according to what I've read, carry the idea that creation and destruction are equivalent actions, and both are spiritually significant. While the arrangement of information is dissolved, the sand necessary to recreate it is still here. Mandala making is a truer simulation of death because it gives us a path to rebirth. Digital deletion, however, is a corruption of that sacred cycle. Deletion creates an emotional loop that can become artistically shallow. Commercial scarcity psychology can be a good foundation for bringing people in, but where are they supposed to settle? Is this produced meaning or just manufactured demand? Scarcity engineering on its own isn't unethical, cheap manipulation, but I believe this iteration of it can only get worse. So despite how inflammatorily this essay began, I don't have anything against the presentation of Unus Annus or Slimy 101's self-deleting videos, even though they do technically reflect suicidal tendency and or self-harmy tendency. Because I know fundamentally that they are operating in good faith. It's just a bad design. There is something artistically intriguing about the loss of information, but that's not what death is. Death is the transformation of information, and so you can't truly reflect it in a digital way through the deletion of information. To make a long story short, when an artwork's primary source of meaning comes from an artist's unilateral ability to revoke or limit an audience's access to it, that control can overwhelm the work's other aesthetic qualities. This makes the experience something that I personally don't find valuable or interesting enough. There are plenty of technically valid forms of art that pull similar shenanigans that I personally have a distaste for. But by no means do I think these works are invalid or in bad faith. I simply feel their ideas are distortions of ideas that have been implemented better in the past. John Cage's 433 comes to mind, but even then, I'm sure I would sit through it again myself. I've been hounding you for the past 7 minutes with my own distaste of Unus Annus, but it's important to me that you know that I don't want you to leave with that same level of distaste. I'm not just here to talk at you. I know this is a talking head style video, but that's not my only goal. I want to open the floor again because it's been 300 weeks and 3 days since they died, and I feel like I should have a better appreciation for Unus Annus than I currently do, specifically because I do have their merch. And I don't want to feel like I'm disrespecting their legacy. It's just that they don't have a legacy because it's been deleted. You know what I mean? Like, if anybody has any rebuttals, I'm very much open ears. I'm very much of open mind to changing my perspective. It's just that it hasn't been changed in the past 6 years. So, Thank you so much for consuming this video at the rapid pace that you consumed it at. I would say check in with me tomorrow, but I will be deleting this channel in 24 hours. I won't. I'm kidding. I'll be back tomorrow.